in the last stream, we were working on setting up a system that going forward is going to allow us to automatically create the cryptocurrency that is required in order to buy any of these items here from the shop, and that previously we were only able to get as quest rewards for completing some of the different quests throughout the quest book here. Now, we didn't quite get to the point of fully automating that cryptocurrency, and that is what I want to work on in today's stream. Hopefully, by the end of this episode, we will have a system in place that is producing a consistent supply of cryptocurrency so that hopefully, fairly soon, we should be able to buy basically anything from the shop here that we want. If we want an angel ring to give us creative flight, we can buy it. If we want a wither skeleton skull to allow us to spawn a wither and get our first nether star, we can buy it. If we want a specific enchantment, we can buy it. If we want more ender chests or ender tanks to move items or fluids easily across large distances or even dimensions, hopefully we can buy it. Now, between streams, I have done a little bit of work, mostly on moving our entire base to a new area and also setting up a brand new building for that base so that everything is not just haphazardly placed down on the ground. So this is actually in a different place. If I do a /home here, the old base was here, and as you can see, there are still a few things lying around. I've left the beetroot seeds here for now. We'll probably move those at some point in the future. There's also an infinite water source here. I don't think I should need that, but just in case, I can come back to that. The blood cake I don't think is movable. I don't really foresee us needing it too much, but if we do, we can always come back and use that. And yeah, other than that, there's just a bunch of holes where things were in the floor. And if we do a quick /back here, we can teleport to the new base area. And basically, all I have done here is try to use multiple of the different simulation blocks that we have available to us. So the majority of the base is made up of this gray simulation block. And other than that, we also have a pretty nifty mod in the pack, and that is the framed blocks mod. So if I go to @framed blocks here, this is super cool in that it adds a bunch of blocks to the game that would otherwise not be customizable that now are customizable. For example, these framed stairs here, if you craft these, and by the way, they're super easy to make, almost everything here is just a combination of framed cubes, and the framed cubes are just made with planks and sticks. And so basically, if I go ahead and grab some framed cubes here real quick, I'll make some of those framed stairs to show you how they work. Boom, and boom. You put them down just like you would any other stair in the game, and they do connect just like any other stair would. But once you have them down, you can then use any other block in the game that's not an entity, so you can't use machines or anything like that. But if I, for example, wanted my stairs to look like dirt, I could take the dirt, right-click it onto the framed stairs, and the stairs now look like dirt. Pretty cool. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and made a bunch of these framed pillars. I've then used these to look like they're propping up the entirety of the base here, and I've also used them along the outer edges with the occasional full block of yellow simulation block at the corners to get this kind of framed look around the entirety of the base. It's not the craziest, most advanced base design in the world, but I think it looks pretty cool. And if we go ahead and head on up here, right now we are using ladders to get up because we don't have any elevators currently, but that is something that I do want to work on right at the start of today's stream. I'm going to go ahead and bookmark the white elevator here. For those who don't know, the elevator is going to allow us to very quickly get up and down without having to use the ladder here, which is going to be very nice, both aesthetically, I think it's going to look nicer, and it's also going to be faster as well. But currently, this is set up in 3 rooms. We have all of our storage drawers over here. I have added substantially more storage drawers, as you can see. Specifically, I've added a lot more of these 2x2 frame drawers, and I've tried to put most of the items that we have, at least a fair amount of, into these framed drawers. So over here, we have all of our blocks. As you can see, we have things like logs. We have some of the deep slate. We've got cobblestone, dirt, magma blocks, netherrack, etc. And then over on this side, we have all of the other like gems and then some farming stuff in the bottom right. We also have the cobblestone here. It really should be over on this side, but I should probably move that over at some point. Right now we have our cobblestone generator just beneath that, pumping cobblestone up into the drawer. And the system here is exactly the same as it was before. We have the drawer controller. The drawer controller is then connected to all of the drawers, and then that is connected to our simple storage network system. We are going to replace this at some point fairly soon with either a refined storage or applied energistic system, But for the time being, this is still here, and everything is still connected in the same way it was before. We've got the link cable on the drawer controller, as well as on all of our chests on either side, just for anything that doesn't currently fit into a storage drawer. Some of the other items are somewhat haphazardly placed at the moment. For example, our botany pot is kind of just sitting here. Over here, we have our invar generator, our diamond furnace, and our alchemistry blocks. This room currently is almost completely empty. I believe it is home, yes, to our pressure chamber from Pneumaticraft, which I think we might have to use a little bit more in today's stream, because one of the other things I do want to do is try and speed up the rate at which we can produce the cryptocurrency, and to do that, we are going to have to make some speed upgrades for the assembly controller, which I think might require the pressure chamber. But as I was mentioning, here is the assembly controller and the final system that produces that cryptocurrency once we have the encrypted matter ready to go. And over here, we've kind of just temporarily placed down some of our create contraptions, just in case we do need to do any mechanical pressing or any whisking in today's stream, which I think we will, because again, if we're going to automate the production of that cryptocurrency, to do that, we are going to have to automate the production of the encrypted ingot, which, if you saw the last episode, you will know involves using 4 of these deployers with encrypted matter to turn stone into encrypted ore, which we can then smelt and then process with the assembly controller to make that cryptocurrency. So we are going to touch on a few things. We're going to do some more create work, hopefully get a better source of kinetic power, because right now we're still using this hand crank, which is really not sustainable in the long term. It is definitely not good for automation. Some more Pneumaticraft to get us the cryptocurrency faster, and some more work on some smaller things like the elevator here that is just going to make our lives that a little bit easier. So the white elevator here is made using 8 white wool with 1 ender pearl. Right now, I don't think we have any ender pearls lying around. We do not. However, as we've seen before, the ender pearl is fairly easy to make. It's 16 mercury, 16 silicon, and 16 neodymium. Neodymium we should have lying around. We totally do, and we can make more of if we want via the simulation blocks. Mercury we might also have lying around. We totally do. Fantastic. And then the last one was silicon, which is probably the easiest one to get because we have a ton of silicon dioxide that we can, of course, get from cobblestone. And so should we need more silicon, we can just break that down. Now, currently, none of these are connected to power. Our invar generator is here, but these are not connected to it. Only the compactor is, because it's next to the invar generator. So to fix that, I think we might want to look at the pipes mod, this one right here. This adds the energy pipe, which we should be able to make. It does require a fair bit of redstone, but thankfully we do have some redstone lying around. Again, our current ore processing system is still exactly the same as it was before. We have our foundry down here along with our smeltery. The foundry is receiving ores from the mining dimension. Those ores then go through into the foundry. We're using laser IO here. Those ores are then pulled out in block form and get sent up via laser IO round and through into the draw controller up there. But either way, back over at the base here, let's go ahead and see if we can't get the pipes here. These are going to allow us to connect up the invar generator to our alchemistry machines. Now, you can do it like this. However, do we have a crescent hammer? We don't. We could look at making the pipe wrench from pipes. It's 2 flint and 2 sticks, which we should be able to do. Can we craft the flint with gravel? We totally can. Boom and boom. Now, can I use this to pick these up? I cannot. Interesting. We can do it like this, and you can shift right click on the energy source. So right now this is doing nothing, but if we shift right click here, you'll see in the top left that it now says transferring 256 FE every tick. So now 256 RF per tick is coming out of this generator. If it can, obviously the generator here can't produce that much, but the power will come out and be distributed amongst these 3. I do, however, think it's going to look just a little bit nicer if we... Actually, maybe it won't. I was going to say if we embed this in the floor, but if I embed it in the floor, you're going to be able to see it from underneath the base. And so you know what? For the time being, I'm going to put this down like this, but we'll probably end up moving a lot of these machines in the somewhat near future. Unfortunately, you can't cover up the energy pipes. To the best of my knowledge, there are no conduits or facades that we can use there. We do have XNet in the pack, and so we might possibly look at some point in the near future at transitioning our power transfer over to something like XNet, because XNet does have conduits that you can use, and you can use those conduits, facades is what they call them in XNet, but you can use these facades to mimic other blocks and cover up your XNet cables, whether they're in the floor, in the wall, or above your machines. Unfortunately, it does look like it might take a second here for this to get its power going. Do remember, if you are going to pick up any of these machines, you do have to do so with any pickaxe that's not from Dingus Construct. Temporarily, if I put this here, will that distribute more evenly? All of the power is going into here, which makes me think that it was just doing it because it was next to the generator. Yeah, whereas you can see here, the power is now being generated, or is now being distributed more evenly between the three machines. You can see in the top left there that they are all getting juice, which is fantastic. Let's take some of that silicon. Let's combine that up with the mercury and neodymium. That gets us 3 ender pearls. And then from there, all we need to do is craft some of our string into wool. Once we have 16 wool, we can then craft that up like so. Drop the ender pearls in the middle. Boom and boom. We have 2 elevators. And now these can go down where the current ladder is. So we'll put one of those at the top, and this is probably going to be easier if we dig down a little first. So we're going to put our first elevator here. We're then going to get rid of this pillar because it's no longer needed. And what we can now do is put down the next elevator directly beneath the first one. And I believe with this mod, or at least in this pack, the elevators can go an infinite distance. Sometimes there's a limit on how far the elevators can go, but currently I believe that with this mod in this pack, the elevators can be as far away as you want, and then they should still work. The way they work, you walk over them, you hit spacebar, you get teleported to the one above it. If you go ahead and hit shift, you get teleported down to the one below it. Pretty nifty stuff. So now getting around should be significantly easier. And of course, if you wanted to, you could add another elevator further up or further down, and then you just have to hit space again or shift again to either go down or up. Nice. You can change the direction on these. If you right-click on them, it does say directional. And basically all this does is this will determine which way you face when you teleport up. For example, if I always want to face this way, like towards my storage drawers, I can go ahead and hit directional. And then right now it's facing north, which is that way. If I change that to east, it's going to point this way. And basically, if you don't have that ticked, you will always face the same way you face when you go up or down. So right now I'm facing this way. So when I go up, I'm still facing this way. If I change this to east, now, even though I'm facing this way when I go up, it's going to change my direction and make me face this way when I come down. And we could do the same here as well. We could make it so that you face west, I guess. So you go up and you face this way. And then even if I'm still facing this way, when I hit shift, it's now going to point me away from the storage drawers so I can run out into the world. Pretty cool stuff. Not entirely necessary, but is possible. You can even hide the arrow there as well. And I think you'll see here there's a button that says remove camouflage. If I'm not mistaken, you can shift right click, or maybe just right click. You can just right click a block onto the elevator there, and that will change the color of the elevator or the texture of the elevator to match the blocks around it. I don't particularly love it because I just forget where my elevators are. So unless I was going to use a different block, I'm quite happy with the elevator just looking like a white elevator, at least for the time being. If you've got any ideas for ways I can cover that up and still be able to know what it is, feel free to let me know in the comments. For now, though, let's take a look and see if we can't fully automate and potentially speed up the creation of cryptocurrency. So if we're going to do that, we are going to need 4 deployers. Right now we have 1, but ideally, even though you can use the same deployer 4 times, I think it's going to be much, much easier if we just have 4 deployers in a row. That way we can just put stone in on one end of the system, have 4 deployers, bonk that stone with encrypted matter, which we can of course get for free by just shift right clicking on the antimatter, and then that will transform it into encrypted ore. Now, in order to make some more deployers, we're going to need more brass hands, more andesite casing, and more electron tubes. I don't think any of that should really be too difficult. The rose quartz here is 8 redstone and 1 nether quartz. So let's grab some redstone and let's grab some nether quartz. It's quite possible we might have to go and get some more redstone before the end of this episode is done, but I do have a more long-term plan for how to generate resources going forward, but that plan does hinge on us getting enough cryptocurrency to be able to buy whatever we want from the shop. For the time being, let's go ahead and drop in, we'll do 24 redstone along with 3 nether quartz. We'll then go ahead and grab our wrench, move this crank over to here, give that a quick crank. That should get us 3 unpolished rose crystals. Good stuff. And then, of course, just like before, we can grab our sandpaper here, place the sandpaper into our offhand, and then begin to polish that rose quartz into 3 polished rose quartz. Nice. So let's go ahead and throw those back in the system. Do we have 3 iron plates? We do not. We have 1 iron plate. Let's go ahead and get a few more here. We can drop those down. Once again, move this over. This should hopefully be some of the last time that we end up using the crank here. I'm hoping to get a better source of power generation for Create up and running within today's episode. For now, though, that gets us 3 iron sheets, and from there, we should be able to craft up these electron tubes, 1, 2, and 3. And then the andesite casing is easy enough. We need andesite alloy with some wooden machine frames. The wooden machine frames are not too bad, but we do need to get ourselves some pressure plates and whatnot. 1, 2, and 3 wooden machine frames. So thankfully, we already have 2 andesite casing. All we need then is another wooden machine frame that we can drop down, right-click with our andesite alloy. That should get us our last andesite casing. Again, you can break these with the wrench. It's actually faster to do this by just shift right-clicking than it is to break it with the pickaxe. Either way, that is the andesite casing done, and then we just need to get ourselves 2 more andesite alloy. So let's go ahead and grab some more andesite. Let's grab some iron nuggets. Let's go ahead and drop those in there. We'll do 20 of each. We'll try and make quite a few of these because, again, we are going to be doing quite a bit of Create work today, and andesite alloy is a very core resource in Create, so we'll drop that there. We do have our blaze burner underneath the crucible. Once again, we'll move the crank. Temporarily, I'm going to break like this block here, just so that I can feed this blaze burner some fuel. Let's quickly grab maybe some coal. You can feed more than 1 fuel item at a time to this guy. You can't see it right now, but it is just increasing the amount of time that it will burn for. In total, I think that you can get it up to about 500 seconds, so almost 10 minutes of blaze burning if you feed it enough coal. But you can basically add coal as much as you like up to a certain point, and then at that point, you won't be able to add any more because it's at kind of its max burn time, if that makes sense. For now, though, let's go ahead and crank. This should get us a decent amount of andesite alloy, and once we have that, we should be able, I think, to really make the remaining 3 deployers, at which point we then need to look at setting up a belt system to actually move all of the stone over under the deployers so that they can all deploy onto the stone on the belt. And of course, we do need to make sure that we eat regularly because cranking away like that does deplete our saturation incredibly quickly. But yes, we do need to get a belt system up and running. And again, if we're going to run belts, we could really do with an automated power system. And I think in the new version of Create, one of the best ways of generating power is going to be via the steam engines. These guys right here, which are super cool. If we go ahead and press W to ponder here, we can see that the steam engines work by connecting to a boiler, which is generated from Create by placing 4 tanks next to each other. Then you can put down a shaft next to that steam engine, and then the boiler just requires water and heat. So you can heat it up. Here they're using the campfires, just regular vanilla campfires, and they're using the Create pump for water. Once the boiler has both water and heat, it will then begin to rotate the steam engine here, producing that kinetic energy. You can get even more energy if you use blaze burners instead of campfires, and you feed those blaze burners like we're doing with our basin over here, and you can increase this quite drastically. You can make the boiler taller, you can add more steam engines, you can give it more heat, you can give it more water, and as you do that, you're going to be able to generate more and more stress units, which you can then use for basically all of your Create contraptions. So this is a super cool way of generating stress units from Create. Not only is it fairly easy to get started with, it's also super expandable and really useful basically throughout your Create lifespan. So it should really be, I think, the only thing that we're going to need in order to get us Create power for the remainder of the series. Back to the deployer. We have the andesite alloy now. We just need some brass sheets. So it looks like we already have 1 brass hand in the system. So we just need 8 more brass sheets. The brass, if I'm not mistaken, is copper and zinc. Let me check that though real quick. Yes, copper and zinc. So if we quickly go and throw these into our smeltery downstairs, we should be able to get a fairly large amount of brass fairly quickly. We do still have some lava over in there. So let's do maybe 16 copper and 16 brass, just because we don't have a ton of space in the smeltery for much more than that. Once they've melted down, we can then go ahead and pull those out in block form over here. And we can always add more lava should we need to. And of course, the nether is home to even more lava should we need it after that. Let's go and do something like this. And there we go. That's 3 blocks of brass. We can craft those down. And if we head on back up to our mechanical press here, we should, I think it's over this way. Nope, this is the, yep. Oh no, this is correct. Yep, here it is. Let's drop these down like so. Let's quickly, hopefully for the last time, move the crank over like this. And there we go. 8 brass sheets. Boom. And boom. Nice. That should be everything to make our remaining deployers. It totally is. Fantastic. Now, in order to make the belts from Create, we do need to get some dried kelp. Did I make a belt previously? I did not. That is fine. So we're doing dried kelp here, which requires regular kelp. Kelp, thankfully, is super easy to make in the combiner. It is for water and for cellulose. Water we have in abundance, and cellulose we also have in abundance. So let's go ahead and just throw all of that together inside of the combiner. Boom, boom. That gets us 16 kelp. We can then go ahead and smelt that kelp up nice and quickly in the diamond furnace here. That's going to get us dried kelp, and once we have 6 dried kelp, we can then craft that into a mechanical belt, which is going to allow us to automatically move the items along underneath the deployers to be deployed with the encrypted matter. So we'll do something like this. Kapow. We then do need to get ourselves some shaft, this stuff right here, which is going to allow us to move the rotational energy that we generate from our boiler or that we generate from anything. It's also going to allow us to use these belts here. So I think what we will end up doing is potentially putting this in the floor. I'm just thinking about how we want this to work. We obviously want everything to end up in the chest here. Actually, no, because I keep forgetting that we have to smelt the ingots before they go into the chest. I always think that we just get the ingot. We don't. We're making the ore, and then we smelt into the chest. So instead, what we might do here is I think I'm going to move the diamond furnace, and we'll try and use this for that final stage of smelting because it is quite fast and is also upgradable in the future. And it's also configurable as well. We can configure where things go. So let's put the diamond chest down somewhere. How do I want to do this? I think I'm going to put the diamond chest here. That is going to lose us access to this chest. We can always replace that with a barrel or something in the future. But I think what we'll probably end up doing is putting one shaft here and then another shaft further back over here. Now, we basically only need space for the 4 deployers. So we need 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we can put the last shaft here. Yeah. The way that you put down a belt, by the way, you right-click on one shaft. You then right-click another shaft within 16 blocks, and boom, a belt is born. We can then go ahead and shift right-click our deployers onto the belt. You'll see that shift right-clicking it from this side has placed the deployer down the wrong way. I do believe we can rotate that with the wrench. Maybe not. Can I do it? Yeah, there we go. Okay. It's easier if you just place it down the way that you want it to go. So we want all of the kind of shaft here to go in the same direction, right? Because we're going to have to connect up power this way. And if these connect like this, if I show you real quick, we'll move this over to here. These are now going to pass that rotational energy between the two of them like that. Whereas if you put them down the other way, like we did initially where the shaft is facing outwards, then they won't connect together and they won't rotate at the same time. You can see right here that we actually can't rotate this anymore because now it's overstressed. So the hand crank can only produce a certain number of stress units, and trying to rotate all of these at the same time is too much for the hand crank to handle. So even if we wanted to delay getting into create power even further, we actually can't. We need to get a better source of power. So step 1 is probably going to be to craft up the engineer's goggles here. These just require a gold plate, some glass, and some string. And these are going to allow us to see a lot more information about our create system. So we'll drop that on there. We'll give that a quick crank with the hand crank. Kapow. Then we can go ahead and craft that into the engineer's goggles. And these can either go into your helmet slot, or alternatively, if you do want to wear a helmet, you can also put them into your curio slot over here as well by clicking this little button next to your head. That leaves you space to still wear a helmet in the future if you need that protection. Now that we have these goggles, whenever we look at certain things, we're going to get more information. For example, that's my bad. They actually go in the head slot, not in the curio slot. So you'll see if I put them in the head slot, I don't see anything. If I put them in the curio slot, we get this little kinetic stats box that now shows us that currently this deployer is using 0 stress units. But if we were to go ahead and try and crank here, we should see that the crank can produce 256 stress units, but these are each trying to use, by the looks of it, 128. So in total, we could run 2 of these with the hand crank, but if we wanted to run any more, we would need more than 256 kinetic stress units. So as I mentioned before, we're going to try and rectify our current situation by setting up a steam engine. So in order for that to happen, we need to make, at the very least, 4 of these fluid tanks, which requires a few barrels, which thankfully should be very easy for us to make. Let's get some slabs, craft those into regular Minecraft barrels. We need at least 4. I'll make a 5th one because, again, I think we should probably go ahead and replace this. I actually don't know, and we can maybe test it later on, but I don't know if the assembly IO unit can extract from a storage drawer. I assume that it potentially could, but if we put the storage drawer here, that might be better, because I'm thinking we can have a storage drawer here for the encrypted ore, and then we can have the diamond furnace set to auto input. We'll set the left side here to input, which is blue, I believe, like that. That's going to then pull the encrypted matter from the storage drawer that's next to it, and then we can set the bottom to output. We can also turn on auto output, and that's going to suck the ore in, smelt it, and then push the resultant ingot down. Again, if we could use a drawer here, that would be even more beneficial than a barrel. But for the time being, let's go ahead and drop down this barrel just so we can test and make sure that everything is working as intended. Back over to the tank, though, the only other thing that we're missing here is copper ingots. So we'll drop some of those on there. Again, give that a crank. Once we have at least 8 copper sheets, we can go ahead and craft up 1, 2, 3, 4 tanks. I think we might need more copper sheets in a second here, though, because we do also, of course, have to make at least 1 steam engine. Never mind, I am completely wrong. We need 1 block of copper, along with 1 andesite alloy, and yet another gold plate. We are running a little low on gold, but that shouldn't be, hopefully, too much of a problem. Let's give that a quick crank as well. There we go. And then from there, that should be everything to get the steam engine and the boiler. So as soon as you put down 4 tanks next to each other, it auto creates the boiler. So I'm thinking about how I want to do this, because we do also have to provide the boiler with water and with heat. So heat-wise, we could potentially use the blaze burner here. I don't think you can hopper fuel into the blaze burner, although as we saw in the ponder, you can also just use a campfire. We might have to move this potentially, but for now, let's put the campfire down here, and then let's put the 4 fluid tanks like that. That's going to form into a bigger fluid tank, and then as soon as you put a steam engine onto it, that's going to transform it into a boiler. Nice. We can then take one of our, let's look away from the boiler, we can then take our shaft, and we can put that on like so. I do believe you can rotate this. If you like, you can have this point in that direction. You can have it vertical or horizontal. I think vertical is probably what we want right now if we're going to rotate this right here and also this right here. At the moment, this is ready to go. The only thing it needs now is water. And as luck would have it, we do have cooking for blockheads in the pack, which adds the sink. The sink is super useful. Do we have any clay? We have some clay. We can get more of the kaolinite required in order to get the dirt from the mining dimension. All right, so a little bit of dirt mining later. That gets us the kaolinite here. That should allow us to make some more blocks of clay. Let's quickly go ahead and smelt those up in the old diamond furnace. We will probably end up making a new diamond furnace sooner rather than later, because this one's obviously going to be involved in the automation of cryptocurrency, and we could do with the second one just for general purpose crafting in the future. But the super cool thing about the sink here is that it is an infinite source of water in a block. So you just put it down, and then you can pipe infinite water or infinite amounts of water out of that one block. And again, this is where the pipes mod does come into play. We could use laser IO for this, but laser IO is a little expensive, especially over shorter distances, and especially when you don't require any kind of filtering whatsoever. So in this scenario, we can just craft 16 fluid pipes from some iron and some redstone, and then if we quickly grab that sink, like so, we can place that down next to our boiler. Let's put it down, for now, like right about here. We can then put a fluid pipe on top, and just like with the energy pipe, if we set the side connected to the sink to output by shift right clicking, like so, that's going to extract 50 millibuckets every tick from the sink round into the boiler. And as you can see right now, it says that this has a kinetic stress capacity of 2048 stress units, which is being transferred over into this shaft. Pretty cool stuff. So now we need to get this shaft power here into the belt. The problem is that the belt is horizontal and the shaft is vertical. So thankfully, that is where Create adds these gearboxes. These are made using andesite casing and cogwheels. We do not have any of those, which is just fantastic. So we are going to have to make some more of these machine frames here. We could definitely do with automating the production of machine frames. Now, it is quite possible, actually, that it might well be worth us looking into temporarily, especially with Create. It might be worth us looking at getting a few more of these blueprints. We use these right at the start of the pack. You can place them down. I think I placed them on the wall before, but you can also place them on the ground. I think if you place it onto like a 1-block space, you get one recipe. But if you place it onto a bigger space, you get this this giant 3x3 wall. So what I'm thinking here is it might be worth trying to teach multiple recipes to this. If we tick that, and then we also do this, and we teach it how to make, so it knows how to make planks. We can then teach it how to make pressure plates, tick. We can then go ahead and make some pressure plates. We can then teach it how to make the wooden plates, tick. We can then teach it how to make the wooden gears. That is not at all right. So you can't shift click the recipe in by the looks of it. Oh no, it maybe worked. Like it shows the right thing there at the bottom. It just didn't show the right thing inside of it. So maybe that's okay. And then we'll shift click in this recipe here. Again, that is not the recipe for it, but I think it should work once we leave. This just requires planks and sticks. Let's also teach it sticks like that. So now maybe we can like right click up here a bit. Right click up here a bunch. Right click up here and right click here. Basically, what we should be able to do now is just a bunch of right-clicking on this wall, and that will allow us to make these wooden machine frames, which I think might be a little easier than what we were trying to do previously. Once we have at least a few, boom, and boom, that gets us our andesite casing. I'm going to make 2 of these here because we are going to need at the very least 2. Actually, I think we might need 3 gearboxes here, so let's do this, and let's go ahead and grab our wrench to quickly pick all 3 of those up. So now, we should have almost everything it takes to make the gearbox. We just need to craft up a few of these cogwheels. The cogwheels, thankfully, are pretty easy to make. Although, again, if we're going to make 3 gearboxes, we are going to need 12 of these, which is going to require yet more shaft. Thankfully, we do have the andesite alloy for that, although we are going to have to make more of that momentarily. Once we have 12 cogwheels, we can make 3 gearboxes, 1, 2, and 3. And basically, these allow you to move your rotational energy. By default, they let you move it 90 degrees. So as you can see here, if we grab some shaft, you can take shaft power that's coming this way and change it to go this way. Alternatively, if you craft the gearboxes into vertical gearboxes, they do the same thing, but they allow you to turn it from going this way to going this way, which is doing. Now, unfortunately for us, the problem here is that this gearbox is going, this belt is going the wrong way, which is not ideal. I think, can I just change this? Can I rotate this? I can. That's super cool. I actually didn't know you could do this. So it's kind of hard to see because it's written down sideways. But you'll see here it says rotational direction counterclockwise, which is what we want it on. If you you'll see it says scroll as well. All you have to do here is scroll. So if you scroll up, it goes clockwise. If you scroll down, it goes counterclockwise. Counterclockwise is what we want because now this is going in the right direction. The direction only really matters for things like belts. For everything else, it does not matter. Like over here, if you right-click the crank, it'll go one way. If you shift right-click, it will go the other way. It does not matter at all. The mechanical press, the whisk, and all of the deployers do not care about which way the energy is going, just so long as it is going, which is good for us. Speaking of which, up here, we need to get our rotational energy into these deployers here. For those, that is where the gearboxes are going to come in handy once again. Let's get one vertical gearbox that we're going to put down like, not like that. We're going to put it down like that, so that now it's going this way, and then we're going to use a regular normal gearbox, non-vertical, like this, and that's going to transfer that energy up, across, and then over into all of the deployers, and as you can see, all of these deployers are now deploying. Pretty cool stuff. Now, what we need to do is we need to get ourselves some encrypted matter, which we have a ton of, and some stone. And I don't think we can automate the encrypted matter. Unfortunately, there's no recipe for this, so we are just going to have to go out, get a ton of it, maybe a few inventories worth, and put it into a storage drawer, and then periodically come through and fill up these deployers. But the stone we definitely should be able to automate. For now, though, just to show you how it works, if we put half a stack of encrypted matter into each hand, by the way, you just right-click on the bottom of the deployer. You don't have to right-click on the hand itself. You can just right-click like this, and that will give the deployer the item. And now, if we were to go ahead and drop a piece of stone, let's say right about here, that piece of stone will head forward, get plonked, go further forward, get plonked, go even further forward, get plonked, go to the farthest deployer, and get its fourth plonk, and boom, we have encrypted matter. Nice. So that does work. And now all we need to do is grab a new drawer, which should be fairly easy to make. I do want to keep in the theming of the base, so I will make another framed drawer here. And in order to get the item off the belt, we are going to need, I believe, a funnel, because that just drops it onto the ground or leaves it on the end there. So the funnel is this guy here. There's a brass and andesite version. This is true for a lot of stuff in Create. The andesite version is usually the cheaper entry-level version, and the brass version is the higher tier version that can do more. For the time being, we don't need to do any filtering or anything like that, so the andesite funnel will work just fine. We can then shift right-click that onto the drawer, and it will add this little contraption to the end of the belt, so that now, when we drop the encrypted matter on like so, it will make its way over and be deposited into the drawer. Nice. I'm going to take that off real quick, and I'm going to temporarily turn off auto input, just so that I can grab my drawer key and lock this drawer to encrypted matter, at which point we can turn auto input back on. That's going to pull the encrypted matter from the drawer, smelt it, and then deposit it down here. And then if, of course, this down here had enough fuel, it would then begin to automatically move all of the parts that are required and transfer the encrypted ingot over into cryptocurrency. So now we need to do a few things. We need to automate the production of stone. And I think the easiest way for us to do that is going to be with the igneous extruder from Thermal Expansion, Thermal Series. This here is made with a copper casing from Create, 4 Invar ingots, 1 Constantan gear. Constantan and Invar are both alloys, we'll get to those in a second, along with 2 glass and a piston. And basically, if I press U here, the igneous extruder is placed down into the world, and then you can place down fluids or blocks either side of it. For example, if you place lava on one side and water on the other, it will begin to produce cobblestone. It doesn't consume the lava or the water, it just produces cobblestone. If, however, you do the same thing, you put down lava on one side, water on the other, but then a magma block underneath of the igneous extruder, the igneous extruder will then slowly but surely begin to automatically produce a limitless amount of stone, and the best bit is that it doesn't require any power whatsoever. So all we need is 1 bucket of lava, 1 bucket of water, 1 magma block, and 1 igneous extruder. Right now, I don't believe we've made any Invar or any Constantan. We haven't. Thankfully, they're both fairly easy to make. Invar is an alloy of nickel and iron, both of which we have, and then Constantan is an alloy of copper and nickel. The Constantan is a 1-to-1 recipe, so 1 nickel and, a 1-to-2, I should say, but it's 1 nickel and 1 copper gets you 2 Constantan. So here, let's do 2 nickel and 2 copper. That should get us 4 Constantan for the gear. The Invar, on the other hand, is 2 iron and 1 nickel, which gets you 3 Invar. So we do need slightly more iron for that. For this one, though, we do need 4 Invar. So we're going to have to do 2 batches of that, which is 4 iron and 2 nickel. I did just hear an explosion upstairs, which is less than ideal. We are going to have to make another one of those air compressors. That's fine. And we do need to make... Did we make the safety upgrade? I don't think we did. We should make a safety upgrade to ensure that doesn't happen in the future. Thankfully, nothing but our air compressor was hurt, but I do need to make sure that I am more present for that in the future. Either way, let's go ahead and pull these out. We can grab our ingot cast, drop that down over here. And there we go. Once we've pulled all of those out, we can then craft up a Constantan gear, kapow. And then what else did we need for the igneous extruder? It looks like we need a piston. That's fine. And the copper casing, which is andesite casing with a copper plate mixed over a blaze heater. That should be fine. We had an extra copper plate. We made quite a few extra copper plates. And we can dump all these in here for now. That's fine. And then as for andesite casing, we are going to have to make another one of those because we did use all of them making gearboxes. Thankfully, that shouldn't be too difficult. It should just be a case of taking the wood here and vigorously right-clicking over on our blueprint board. So we take a bunch of these, we take a bunch of these, we make at least 4 of these, which requires more of these. Once we have 4 of these, you make 1 of these, which needs some of these, which needs more of these. So you take these, then we can get at least 1 of these, and then we can make 1 of those. Perfect. Okay. It's a little janky, but it does get the job done. And then we are, of course, out of andesite. So let's take another 20 andesite and another 20 iron nuggets. And let's see if we can't make a few more andesite alloy here as well. Boom. There we go. Now we've got some more andesite alloy. That gets us an andesite casing, copper plate, and crank. And boom. And so now we can have everything it takes to make the igneous extruder. Good stuff. Do we have a bucket of water or lava? We'll find out just as soon as this quest disappears. We have a bucket of neither of those. We also have no buckets. That is fine. I would not like to make 9 buckets. Instead, I would love to make just 2. Of course, we do have our tank of lava downstairs, so we can refill on that. And in the worst case scenario, we can always do a quick /home and grab, and by the worst case scenario, I mean the case scenario, we can do a quick actually, let's put this back temporarily. Let's do /home. Let's grab this infinite water source. You know what, might as well leave it here in case. We'll take 2 of these, just in case I need to come back and get another infinite water source. We'll then do a /back, take us back where we were. Let's put down a temporary little infinite water source. Water and lava. And then if we head back up to the top, we should be able, along with a magma block, to combine all of these up into infinite stone. So much like on the other side, I think what I will do over here is I'll get another framed draw, like so, and we'll craft that up once again with the black and white simulation block. This time we'll put the draw over on this side. So we're going to put it right there, like that. Looks a little awkward given the way we've put the steam engine, but that will work. We can then put the funnel here. That's going to have the same effect. It's going to extract from the draw and place things onto the belt. And so then what we can do is we can place down the igneous extruder. I think I'll place the igneous extruder directly behind the draw. So what we'll do is we'll place the magma block in the floor like this. We'll then place the igneous extruder on that, like so. We then need both lava and water down around it. So let's do something. Do we have any gray simulation block? We do have a little bit left. Let's do this. Let's put lava here. Let's do this. Let's put water here. And then that should begin producing stone. It totally does. Nice. From there, what we can do is we can grab our third kind of pipe. That is the item pipe. Assuming we have enough iron for it. We totally do. We need 2 of those droppers as well. Boom. And just like with the energy pipe and the fluid pipe, we can place one down like so. Using our wrench, we can set the side that's connected to the igneous extruder to extract. And that's going to pump all of that up and around into the drawer. And then all of that stone is going to get pulled out onto the belt. And one by one, those are going to get transformed into encrypted matter that is going to be smelted and placed into the barrel. Nice. So people are telling me that we actually can automate the production of encrypted matter if we use the deployer here. So if we ponder real quick, I believe the deployer can be used to both left click and right click. And so I assume the logic here is that we can use the deployer to automatically right click the simulation block. It totally works. Look at that. So you can actually, even though we have to shift right click to get the matter, you can just have a, and obviously this is facing sideways, but you could have it facing down or any direction really. You can just poke the wall and it produces encrypted matter. And then I assume that we could potentially just do something here as simple as extracting from that. So if I was to put a chest down, say, right about here, and then I was to put an item pipe, say, right about here, could I then just set this to extract to pull that item out? And then if we had this obviously connected up, it just works. That is fantastic. So we could have a deployer hiding around back. So what let's say what we do here is we take our item pipe, we're going to connect the item pipe up to our 4 deployers, right? Prior to that, we want another storage drawer. This drawer is going to hold the encrypted matter just in case we get an excess of encrypted matter, which I assume we will eventually, depending on how fast we make our system. But we can then take a deployer, and if we just hook that up to the pre-existing kinetic energy, we should be able to make an infinite amount of the goods here. So how do we want to do this is a good question. I'm thinking about Like, we could just put the deployer, like, here. And by here, I mean not here. If we put the deployer down like this, we could then just have, it's going to look a little janky, but if we just have a piece of simulation block floating in the sky, that's going to produce simulation matter. And then from there, we can have a drawer that we put down. I'm going to put it here just so we can access it should we need to. And then we can do this. We can set this here to extract. Make sure these don't connect. If you just shift right click, they will disconnect there, which is good. Let me make sure that I go ahead and use my key to lock this drawer and this drawer. And so now we have unlimited encrypted matter. That's fantastic. We can set this as well to extract, like so. That's going to pull the matter out and feed it to the deployer. These can hold up to a stack. And so with the current setup that we have, this is going to fill this one first, then this one, then this one, then this one. You can change the item pipes to evenly distribute, but in order to do that, we need the advanced pipe upgrade, which is quite expensive. It requires 4 blocks of redstone, 4 diamonds in the previous tier, improved pipe upgrade, which requires more redstone, more gold, and the basic pipe upgrade, which is redstone and iron. Currently, we don't really have that much redstone to spare, and so I think for now this will be fine, especially given that we're not currently doing things that fast. So what we could do is just fill up, we are going to have to make one more deployer, obviously, but we can go ahead and just fill all of these up, and then the new ones that come in will just be given out to all of them. And I think given that it's currently not that fast, that should work out just fine until we speed this up, which we might look at doing at some point soon. But real quick, let's go ahead and make another deployer, and then we can look at automating the assembly controller and maybe trying to make this a little bit faster as well. All right, so we have our 4th deployer. People have pointed out, quite rightly, in the Twitch chat that right now we have one deployer that is poking this white simulation block, but then 4 deployers that are then poking down onto the stone. And obviously that is not going to be sustainable because we're only going to get, this is just as fast as these are. So we have to do one of 2 things. We either have to make more deployers, ideally 4 of them to match this here, or we have to make this one deployer faster. Now, thankfully, I do believe we should have enough kinetic stress capacity to make this faster. Right now, these are all using 64 stress units. You'll notice earlier they were using 128 when I was trying to use the crank. The crank was a little faster. If you make these faster, which we can do, it will just cause them to use more stress units. And so there is room for us to speed up this one deployer. Now, there are 2 ways that you can speed things up in Create. One of them involves using cogwheels and is quite messy and takes up a very large amount of space. So what you can do is that you can take big cogwheels and small cogwheels, and if you take a small cogwheel, like this, and then have a big cogwheel in front of it, like this, what you can then do is you can get another small cogwheel and another big cogwheel. You can put the small cogwheel diagonally next to the large cogwheel, like so, and then you can put a large cogwheel in front of that. And as you'll see, these are getting faster. So whenever you put a big cogwheel in front of a small cogwheel, it's going to go at the same speed of that cogwheel. But then whenever you put a small cogwheel diagonally to a big cogwheel, that smaller cogwheel is going to go faster than the big cogwheel. But then you can, of course, transfer that faster speed to the large cogwheel. That's what we're doing here. So if, for example, I was to go ahead and move this guy temporarily, before he was using 64 stress units, whereas now, if I put him down on here somewhere, ideally, we rotate that so he connects. There we go. He's pointing the wrong way, but you can see that he's using 128 stress units, and so he should, in theory, be going twice as fast as his 64 stress units counterparts. The alternative way of doing this is with a rotation speed controller, which is a much more condensed and easy system, but it is more expensive. This requires a brass casing, which requires that we have molten brass in a spout and pump that over some brass, over some copper casing. And then we also need a precision mechanism, which is actually not too bad. The usual recipe for this is a little bit more tricky, but this doesn't look too bad. 4 iron nuggets, another brass casing, 2 cogwheels, and a large cogwheel. So we need 2 brass casing, 1 for the precision mechanism and 1 for the brass casing itself. We do have a spout, and we can pump into this spout. Do we have a spare depot? We totally do. Fantastic. So the only tricky part here is I guess getting the molten liquid in, because I think our best bet is still going to be putting like using the smeltery for this. So as awkward as it is, and it is awkward, I think currently our best bet is to dig a bit of a hole here, put the depot down like this. We're then going to put the copper casing, which we still need to make, onto that depot, and then, or the 2 copper casings, I guess, that we need to make. Do we have spare andesite casing? I do. I made extra andesite casing. Fantastic. So we need 2 andesite casing, which we can then combine with copper plates to make the copper casing, and then both of these require 180 millibuckets of molten brass, which is a combination of nickel and copper. That's perfect because you get 180 millibuckets from 1 copper and 1 zinc. We, of course, need 2, so let's take 2 copper and 2 zinc. Let's drop both of those in like so. Once those have melted, we can use the fluid pipes here, like this. And we want to disconnect from this by shift right-clicking twice. And then as soon as the brass is ready, which it is, we can then set this here to extract. That's going to pull all of the brass out into the spout. I'm then going to go ahead and disconnect that. You can right-click again, by the way, shift right-click again to reconnect it, like so. It's a little finicky, but it is doable. You got to get it right on that right side, like that. But just because I don't want the cobalt to go in there once this is empty. But now, all we should have to do is head on back up to our system, drop the copper sheets and the andesite casing into our basin here, give the burner some fuel, give this guy a quick crank, and then place both of these copper casings onto the depot underneath the spout. And boom, we get 2 brass casing. Nice! And we actually have some extra brass in there should we need more brass casing in the future. And one real nifty thing that you can do actually with any of the casings, brass, andesite, or otherwise, is you can actually right-click these onto belts to make them look nicer. And it gives you that nice casing, and it actually doesn't use up the brass casing itself. It just textures the belt to look a little bit cooler. I like the way this brass casing looks personally. And so now, what we need to do is combine the brass casing with 4 iron nuggets, 2 cogwheels, and a large cogwheel. Thankfully, we have all of these cogwheels over here, and we should have the ability to make some iron nuggets. We totally do. So let's do 1, 2, 3, 4 iron nuggets. We'll drop those in. We'll drop in 1 casing. We'll drop in, was it 2 small cogwheels and 1 big cogwheel? It was indeed 2 small cogwheels, 1 big cogwheel, and make sure again that we have some kind of fuel. And crank. That is working. Even though I accidentally placed down a log there, that's fine. Let's get rid of that log. Thankfully, the create blocks the create machines can usually go through blocks. But there we go. We have a precision mechanism. We can then combine that with the rotational speed controller. And the way this guy works is much more straightforward. You place it down, like so, making sure that it is getting its shaft power horizontally. You then place a large cogwheel into it. And then using this number here, you can change the speed by scrolling up or down while looking at that little box at the front there. So you do have to be specifically looking at this box that is highlighted. If you're not, nothing will happen. But now, if we take our deployer and we put it down here, you'll see again, right now, 64 stress units. If we change this to 20, that's going to go up to 80. We can go up to 32. That's going to double it to 128. We want to go up, I guess, to 64. And that should start to use 256 stress units, which is 4 times that of our current deployer, which in theory should make it 4 times faster at acquiring that encrypted matter. And we can go further. You can go all the way up to 256. 256 makes it use 1,024 stress units, which is half of what we're generating. But given that we're not really using that much, and the belts, by the way, are free, they do not require any stress units whatsoever, that is going to allow us to encrypt very, very quickly. Now, of course, I do want to move this because right now it's in a bit of a janky position, but you get the idea. So let's see if we can't put this down. Actually, I guess we could probably just put this guy here, and then this guy, I guess, either way here. Let's move the simulation block. And I think we'll probably just have it pointing this way. So we'll have the simulation block like there, and then we'll have this guy pointing to it like that. It always puts it down in the wrong place. So I guess what we'll do is we'll do this, get rid of this, crank this up to at least 64, like that, and then connect that back up to the drawer using our remaining item pipes. So we no longer need these 2. And instead, what we need to do is we need to make our way around to here. And even though it's going to look a little janky, we can do this, and then we can extract from this guy, and that's going to then pull that antimatter out and send it around into the drawer. Nice. So now what we should be able to do, in theory, is kind of fill all of our current deployers that are here with encrypted matter. So if we make sure they all have encrypted matter, a stack of it. I don't want to filter that. There we go. Now, everything should keep running, and ideally, this should be in perfect harmony. We should be producing just enough encrypted matter to keep all of these going. So as soon as they use encrypted matter, it should instantly be replaced. It might not quite be that simple. We might have to make this a little faster, but thankfully, again, we can crank this for now at least, all the way up to 256. And the good news is that even if we make this too fast, that's really not going to be a problem, because it looks like there is, I think, an encrypted matter singularity. There is. Oh, there's an encrypted singularity, which does require the ingots, not the encrypted matter, but it is going to be good for us to have excess encrypted matter, and going forward, should we overstress the system, we can always turn this down. So this is good. This is working. As I mentioned earlier, one thing I would like to try here is I would like to try replacing that barrel there with a storage drawer. I can't see a reason why it wouldn't work, honestly. Let me make sure I get the right one here. This is what I'm after. And then let's combine that up again with the black and the white simulation block. I always get that wrong. It's like this. And then we're going to replace this guy right here with a storage drawer for the encrypted matter, like that. And of course, we'll lock that with our drawer key. I'm hoping that the assembly IO unit here can access that drawer. I guess we're going to find out. But in order for us to find out, we can also get rid of these for now. We're going to have to get another air compressor. And ideally this time we're going to install a safety module to make sure that it doesn't go kaboom. So there's our second air compressor. Let's do a quick bit of an inventory dump here. We don't need most of the stuff that we're carrying around with, especially given that we can access everything wirelessly should we need more of it. But this is ready to go. Now, if we want it to not explode, we could do with adding one of the security modules, I think is what it's called. Yeah, this one right here. So this guy is, I don't think too bad. It requires 4 lapis, 4 obsidian, and then 1 safety tube module, which is a pressure gauge, gold, and compressed iron, a pressure tube, and some levers. Do we have what it takes to make this? We can make this. Fantastic. The real question, I guess, is just whether or not we're going to have enough compressed iron, but I think we do. So boom. And then do we have the obsidian? We do not. So we are going to have to get 4 obsidian to make that happen. Thankfully, our new portal location, because of course the nether is also a little different now because we had to move the nether portal. The new portal location is right next to some obsidian, so we can just come through and grab some of that and then use that to craft up the old security upgrade here. We should have easily more than 4 lapis, I think. And so let's see, security, upgrade, and boom, that is done. So now all we need to do is add that to the compressor. So the security upgrade, basically, we put it in, is going to release pressure when things get too high. So if we were to go ahead and grab some oak here and drop that in, this time, instead of it exploding like it did previously, what should happen is it should increase the pressure continually until it gets to the point where the assembly controller can start working, which is ideal. We want it to start working. And then when it gets too high, it will then begin deleting any excess pressure, or like just release some of the pressure to stop it from exploding. So this is a little bit more wasteful on fuel. It's going to keep using the fuel even if it's just dumping the excess pressure, but it stops it from exploding and it keeps everything running smoothly. And as we've seen previously, what we should be able to do here is just grab another one of these bonsai pots, because if we place the bonsai pot on top of the air compressor, because everything that we get from putting an oak sapling into the bonsai pot is burnable, we should just be able to put this on top and have all of the fuels that are produced by it pump down into the air compressor, and that should give us infinite fuel to keep that air compressor going, which in turn is going to keep the cryptocurrency coming in. Right now we only have 2 in there, and we've got 121 encrypted ingots, but that should start to change as soon as we get up to 3.5 bar here. Obviously, I do have to put in my hopper and my axe there in order for that to work, but that should keep working. And then here we are in the right zone now, and so this should be working. So now the limiting factor is the speed at which the cryptocurrency is made, because this assembly system is very, very, very slow, as you can see. Now, we can make this faster utilizing the speed upgrades, these ones right here. But as we mentioned in the last stream, these are a little tricky because they require lubricant. And lubricant is a little bit of a pain to make. We can either use a thermo-pneumatic processing plant to turn biodiesel or regular diesel into it, which is not easy to do because the biodiesel and regular diesel are a whole setup in and of themselves to make. Alternatively, we can use the Amadron tablet here. The Amadron tablet allows us to buy the lubricant at the cost of emeralds. And you can put quite a few of these in. I don't recall the exact number. It might be 10 that you can put in here in total. Let me check here. Yeah, you can put 10 speed upgrades in max to make this as fast as possible. So for 10 speed upgrades, we would need 10 buckets of lubricant, which would cost us 50 emeralds. However, I think that might be fine. So in order to get emeralds, we haven't made any emeralds yet, and we've kind of run into problems with emeralds. And that is because in order to make emeralds, we need vanadium, we need beryl, and we need chromium. Chromium, I think we do. And let me just quickly check how we're getting the chromium here. We're getting it from the yellow simulation block, which we can make from sulfur, and that's a repeating cycle. You get more sulfur from the yellow simulation block, and as a byproduct, we can get the chromium. Easy enough. The next thing we need is vanadium. The vanadium, I think we should also have. Where are we getting that from? We're getting that from the purple simulation block. Again, a looping system where you use white simulation block, you get iodine, and as a byproduct, we get the vanadium. The hard part that we've not been able to get up until now is beryl. However, we should be able to get beryl now because we can utilize Create to get prismarine, I believe. Yes, we can turn our lapis into prismarine via the process that Create creatively calls bulk haunting. So in order to bulk haunt, we need a fan, in this case an encased fan, along with some soul sand that we can then alight on fire, or anything that will create that blue flame from vanilla Minecraft. So the encased fan is not too tricky to make, although we have none of the items required to make it. It is another andesite casing as well as a propeller. The propeller here just requires 3 more iron plates. And of course now we can move these, by the way, over to our system that actually is producing Create energy. So if we put our depot here and our deployer here, and actually, you know what, let's do this. It might overstress us, but if we do this up here, we can make, yeah, it is overstressed, but what we can do is we can get rid of that plank I just placed, and we can turn our speed controller down just a smidge. There we go. This is going to allow us to produce these iron plates much, much faster, because now we can right-click them on the depot. Look at that. It's going so much quicker, and we don't have to manually crank, which is fantastic. Let's make our propeller. And then once again, let's go ahead and do a little bit of right-clicking over here to get a bunch of planks, get a bunch of plates, get a single gear, and then get a machine frame, at which point we can do this and this. That gets us exactly what we're after, the andesite casing, and kaboom, we have an encased fan. Nice! So the encased fan is, again, another one here that is going to benefit from the faster spinning, but for now, let's put it down like this and make sure it's facing that way. So the power is running through into the fan. And what we want to do from there is grab some soul sand, which we can go and grab from the nether. And then if we light that soul sand in front, that's going to then begin to bulk haunt everything that we drop in front of that fan. And for us, we're going to drop some lapis down, and then that will transform that lapis into prismarine. We can then break that prismarine down and use that to produce beryl, which is then going to allow us to create the emeralds. And if we can get 50 emeralds, that's going to allow us to make the maximum number of speed upgrades, which might be too many at the minute, but we can give it a go. We can make a few at least and see how it goes. But that is going to allow us to make our pneumatic craft system much, much faster, in turn producing even more cryptocurrency. So it was a little touch and go there, but I did manage to get a single piece of soul sand. And so if we go ahead and fall through the hole that I just created in my base floor, we can then head on back up. And this time, if we don't fall through, we can place this down just in front of the encased fan. People have actually told me, I didn't know this previously, but making the encased fan faster doesn't actually increase the speed at which it transfers, like it transmutes items. It just increases how far the fan will blow. So right now it's only doing a few blocks. If you make it faster, it will just go even more blocks, but it won't actually make the transmutation any faster, which is good for us because it means that we can do something like this. We can grab our flint and steel. We can light this on fire, and you'll see that changes the color of the particles after the fire. And so now, if we drop lapis in front of that fire, that lapis is going to get blown, and slowly but surely, it should transform into prismarine. Nice. And you don't have to do one at a time, of course. We could go and grab a stack of lapis here and drop that stack of lapis down in front of the fire. That is going to take a little longer. I don't think it quite takes 64 times as long, so I think it might be faster to drop a stack at a time here, but that should transform into 64 prismarine, at which point we can break that down, and if we go ahead and get more of the other items required to make the emeralds, those being the chromium and vanadium from the yellow and the purple? Yes, purple simulation blocks. Then we can go ahead and start making emeralds. Again, 50 would be ideal here. There we go. Look at that. It's all done. Fantastic. You'll love to see it. We didn't quite get 64 there. It looks like you can then bulk haunt. Oh, no, never mind. Oh, it's only a 75% chance I see, and there's a 12% chance of getting prismarine crystals. That is fine. I think you can also break down the prismarine crystals into beryl as well. Never mind. You get selenium and phosphorus. Interesting. So, real quick. Do we have Amadron? Do we have what it takes to make the Amadron tablet? We need some plastic sheets, which we should have left over from before. We do. We need a GPS tool, which is just missing a redstone torch. Like so. And boom. And then finally, we need an air canister, which we can make. Nice. Now, this does require charging. You'll see right now it says pressure 0 bar. So unlike other mods, we do have to charge this with pressure, not with energy. And that is where the charging station, I think it's called, comes into play. That is this guy right here from Pneumaticraft. Again, we almost have everything to make this. We just need some reinforced stone slabs. Boom and boom. This does have to be connected to pressure. Let's go ahead and temporarily... Can I rotate this? I can. Nice. I'm going to put the charger there, and I'm going to put my Amadron tablet into that charging station. And you'll see the pressure starts to increase there. That is going to be useful because it needs that pressure for when we actually want to use it. While that's charging, though, let's go ahead and break a bunch of simulation block, craft that simulation block into yellow and purple simulation block, dissolve that, and repeat the process over and over and over again until we have a good amount of beryllium, not beryllium, until we have a good amount of chromium and vanadium. Okay, so we've run into a slight problem. I thought we had iodine, but it turns out we don't. And in order to get iodine, we need this lead iodide, which we can get from dandelion yellow. So we need to find a yellow dandelion. And in order to do that, we need bone meal and we need grass. So bone meal, thankfully, we can get via the composter. Composter, for those who don't know, vanilla block, super easy to make. It's just wooden slabs, and then you can put in almost anything that's you can grow. So in this case, I'm putting in oak saplings. It does need quite a few of them, but it will then instantly make a bone meal. Fantastic. You can also put seeds and stuff in as well. And we do have no extra saplings, which is less than ideal. I really thought we had some in there, but we don't. Either way, we have some bone meal, so hopefully we get lucky here. And we can also craft grass using cellulose, kaolinite, and water. So cellulose, again, we have a ton of. Water, we have a ton of. And we're currently making the kaolinite here by breaking down some of the dirt from the mining dimension. Once we have some grass, we can head on over to a plains biome, and we can place the grass down, and then we can see about bone mealing that grass to hopefully get us at least one dandelion. Okay, 30 grass is perfect. We have got the nature's compass out here. It's telling us that we are 140 blocks away from our nearest plains biome, so let's head on over in that direction. So we got our grass down. Hey, look at that. First time's the charm. Beautiful. So that gets us our dandelion. We are a little ways away. What in the world is up there? We are a little ways away from our base here, so it is a little bit of a wander over. Actually, we can just do /skyblock home, and there we go. That's going to take us a little closer. But that is all we needed to do. And so now we can actually duplicate that because we do get more iodine from the purple simulation block. So all we should need to do is dump some of this stuff here, craft that into yellow dye, break that down over here. That gets us lead iodide, which we can break down further. And now we can continue with the process we were trying to do initially, which is crafting the purple simulation block, breaking that down to get the vanadium, and then taking that vanadium and combining it up with everything else to make the emeralds here. So beryl, vanadium, and chromium. All right, so not too long later, we have 27 emeralds. We can make more. It's just a case of mining more simulation block and running that through over and over again, and potentially getting some more lapis. We're down to just 69 lapis. We did have to make some more prismarine. Either way, let me quickly repair my pickaxe here, and let's dump some of the extra stuff that we're carrying around that we don't need to be. And let's see if our Amadron tablet is charged. It is half charged. I think this is fine. I think it just uses more charge the more you use it, but I think we can use it when it's not fully charged. So I believe, if I am not mistaken, we might need a chest for this. It's possible we might need 2 chests for this, so I will make a second chest just to be safe. We'll go with the regular Minecraft chests here, just so they stack. And I think we might need to be outside, because this is done via delivery drone. Actually, we need a tank, right? I think I might need a tank, yeah, because I think the, gosh, I completely forgot. The liquid, we're receiving a liquid here, not an item. It's not going to give us the bucket. So I'll put this down. Not this down. I will put this down. There we go. So now, what we can do, we can take our Amadron tablet, and as we can see here, it says right-click an inventory to allow it to provide items to the vendor, right-click a tank to allow it to provide fluids to a vendor. So if we right-click here, these are now accessible. So what we should be able to do is in here, if we type in lubricant, we can see that we can either sell 2 buckets of lubricant for 1 emerald, which is a scam, or we can buy 1 bucket of lubricant for 5 emeralds, which is also a scam. So right now you'll see it's in red. That's because we don't have any emeralds in the drawer, or in the chest. If I put the emeralds in and we go back here and we type in lubricant, now we can actually buy this. So we have 25 or 27, but we're going to spend 25. So we can buy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these. Place order. That should send a drone from Pneumaticraft. Here it is, to collect the emeralds, leaving us with 2 left. I love the drone. He's going to leave. And then a drone should come back and deposit 5 buckets worth of lubricant into our basic fluid tank. Look at that. It's just that easy. So now we can begin to take these buckets of lubricant, and we should be able to craft those up into speed upgrades. So do we have sugarcane? We do. And we also have snads should we need more. We are going to need 20 sugarcane, so we actually are going to need more. Let's quickly grab a little bit of snad. I really thought we had some, but that's fine. We can craft some more snad. That is not a problem whatsoever. Right now we have no water, but we do have our unlimited water source over here. One, 2, 3, 4. Let's drop this back down, and let's quickly grab some of that sugarcane, which we should be able to grow very quickly here. And that's going to very quickly get us more than the 20 that we need. So let's craft 20 sugar. Fantastic. And then from there, we should be basically good to go here. We do have some lapis. Actually, yeah, we got loads of lapis. Again, we only need 20. So let's grab lubricant. Let's do this, and let's repeat that 4 more times. And there we go. We have 5 speed upgrades. So now, if we head on back into our new create room, which is over here, what we should be able to do is get rid of this guy temporarily with the pickaxe. Then, using our create wrench, it looks like we can rotate this back to facing the correct way, like that. Beautiful. That's going to, again, increase the pressure inside of this. You can put these inside of the air compressor as well. That will also increase the speed at which the air compressor compresses the air, which is potentially good news for us. We might need more of these. I'll take this out now, because now that we're over 4 bar, this is working. If I put these in, the question is whether or not the pressure goes down too fast. So already, again, if I take these out, you can see how slow it moves and how it gets faster once we add those. It's the arms especially. Like if I take the this out here, the arm moves so very slowly, but with the speed upgrades, it moves quite a bit faster. Again, we can put up to 10 of these in here, so we could add 5 more. New daily offers are available. I had no idea that daily offers are a thing. Are you offering me a better lubricant offer? No. Okay. I don't know where we see the daily offers, but there's a bunch of stuff you can buy in here, including some of the assembly programs that we bought from the store with cryptocurrency before. But this is now substantially faster than it was previously. It looks like the pressure is not quite keeping up, so it's quite possible that we might want to, maybe siphon one of these off, or maybe even two of these off to put into here to make this a little bit faster, to try and get the balance just right. But essentially, going forward, we should be able, and I'll probably do a bit between streams, I'll get some more white simulation block, we can craft more together. As we get more lapis, that's really our limiting factor now, because we need it both to make the prismarine and also to craft the upgrades. But once we have more lapis, and once we can get more of the chromium and the vanadium, we can then use that to produce even more of the emeralds, to get even more lubricant, to make even more speed upgrades. We can speed up both the assembly controller. Ideally, we want to get this to 10 speed upgrades to make it as fast as possible. And we can also speed up the air compressor as well to make sure that it keeps up with the assembly controller, and to make sure that we're always within that 3.5 to 5 bar range to make sure that our system keeps working. But even at the current speed, we are making cryptocurrency surprisingly quickly. You'll see here that the encrypted matter, we got 400 of it. That is maybe going down now. Like, I'm thinking that now this might be the slower part. Whoops. I'm thinking now this might be the slower part of the system. We're at 398, and it's quite possible we're going to go down to 397 in a second here. Oh no, the next part is the furnace, of course. Okay, so that is our current problem. I think what we can do here, chat, in a somewhat janky fashion as always, is potentially just do this, and if we set the right-hand side of this, so this side here, to purple, which it was by default, to fuel, we can then go ahead and set this to extract, like that, and that should pull, I think, some of the fuels out of here, maybe? Maybe not, eh? Interesting. I guess not. That's not ideal. Again, if we really wanted to, I guess we could just make another bonsai pot and put that directly above the old one, above the furnace, right? Like, we put that here, we get rid of this. This is probably a better solution anyway, just in case the diamond furnace does use too much fuel. Dirt we have, and saplings we have. Let's put a dirt in there. Let's put a sapling in there. Let's get a hopper of the regular vanilla Minecraft persuasion, and we're finally out of iron, which is not good at all. We might have to go and move our quarry in the mining dimension. But once we have some more iron, we can then upgrade this to be a hopping botany pot, a hopping bonsai pot, at which point that should fuel the diamond furnace. We can turn the top there to be purple. That should feed directly down into it, and that will complete the system. And again, it's possible at that point that this might become our bottleneck. It will do at a certain point if we make this fast enough. The bottleneck will become this part over here, but of course, if we wanted to, we could also look at using more rotational speed controllers to make this faster, or maybe even just repositioning the current rotational speed controller to make all of them faster, and then we can upgrade the boiler, make it bigger, give it more fuel, make more steam engines to increase the amount of stress units that we can produce. Just adding more steam engines, by the way, won't do anything to the amount that you're producing. If I was to put a second steam engine on the boiler right now, it would just divide 2048 by 2. So each one would only be able to do 1024. So in order to actually get more stress units out of the boiler, you have to give it a better heat source, or potentially more water. Right now, you'll see that our water bar is quite high, so water is not our problem. But depending on what you use, it could also be, it could be water. Like, if you use a slower or weaker form of water production, then water could be the thing, but mostly it's going to be the size of your boiler and the heat source that is going to determine the amount that outputs. I think the engines do have a maximum of 16,000, and so at a certain point, once you get over that, you do need a second engine to be able to do it, because it's quite possible you get to a stage where your boiler can produce like 32,000 stress units, but you only have one engine and therefore can only take 16,000 out. Anyway, that is for future Isaac to worry about. For now, we have automatic stone, automatic encrypted matter. We have none of it up there. It looks like we're only just keeping up, which is surprising, actually. This end one here has nothing in it, so all of the encrypted matter that we're making is being used, which is surprising. And it makes me think that the speed here must not be linear. Like, these guys are using 64 SU, but in order to get 4 times the speed, we need to use 512 SU, which is more than 4 times as much. So that's interesting. yeah, more than 4 times as much. So it looks like you have to put even more stress units in to get the same amount of outcome there, which is good to know. But we are automatically making encrypted matter, making stone, combining those into encrypted ore, smelting that into encrypted ingots, and processing that into cryptocurrency. And so next time we'll come back to hopefully a large amount of cryptocurrency. Again, we should probably swap this out for a draw. It looks like the other draw is working just fine. So let's do this. Let's grab some of the black and white simulation block. Boom and boom. There we go. We'll replace the draw that we have here with a locked draw for cryptocurrency. Like that. And yeah, next time we'll come back. Hopefully we've got over 150 here, so hopefully we can come back. We can buy the Angel Ring right away, and we can look at getting started with the Digital Resources mod. This is a mod that is created by the developer of the Modpack, so the Modpack maker made this mod as well. And this here adds the Resource Simulator, which allows us to basically generate resources kind of out of nothing just by using these chipsets with the Resource Simulator. It is a little expensive. It requires a nether star. It also requires some netherite and a bunch of other things as well that we're going to have to get more of, including a shulker box and some dragon's breath. So we are going to have to go fight the end dragon before we can get into this, but I'm confident we can get there, especially if we can buy the wither skeleton skulls, which will let us spawn the wither, let us get our nether stars, and let us get started with that digital resources mod, which should hopefully produce a large amount of resources, or at least allow us to scale up in the future to produce a large amount of resources, which is going to allow us to push forward and eventually, of course, get to the end of the EOF quest line here and try and get towards this finished program quest and see if we can't craft this crazy craft right at the end of the pack. But that is all we have time for this episode of Encrypted.